not a robot. She's Maram Suzli, and she's on Skype to talk to me and you right now. Maram, I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to see you on a screen, a split screen, with me on the mother of all talk shows. Thank you very much for joining us.
The pleasure is all mine. I've also been watching your tweets, and also ever since, I was a teenager, I've been watching every activist thing you've done, Galloway, so it's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. La shukra la wajib, as I always say. Now, tell us this. The prevailing narrative here in this country is that the government in Damascus was the reason for many problems in the Middle East, from the bad relations with our NATO ally Turkey, to the situation of Kurdish people in Syria, to the lack of democracy in Syria. That was the prevailing orthodoxy for many, many years here. And that's why Western governments got away with funding and arming and propagandizing for the Al-Qaeda, ISIS, alphabet soup of Islamist extremism, which tried to destroy your country of Syria. That must be extremely frustrating for a Syrian like you that knows the truth. How have the last few years been for you in that regard?
It's been a struggle, but I think it's that frustration that has driven me to try to educate as many people as I can about what's really happening. And, it's ironic that some of the same Al-Qaeda-linked groups that the US, the CIA, has been arming are now the ones attacking their Kurdish proxies in the northeast of Syria, which was very predictable. The terrorists of the freedom fighters of today are always the terrorists of tomorrow, and they keep switching up this game. So, I would love to tell you guys about what's really happening over there now.
Tell us, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, if you've heard that Turkey is invading the northeast of Syria, and this is supposed to be something that is new, but as a matter of fact, Turkey has already invaded the northwest of Syria, including Idlib province, which is under Al-Qaeda control, and Afrin, which was a city that had a large population of Kurds. But you never heard such an outcry about that invasion, because the US and the EU supported it. They went along with Turkey's entrance into Manbij in Operation Euphrates Shield, and that is because it didn't threaten their real objective in Syria, which is not really about the Kurds. It's about controlling Syria's resources in the northeast of the country, the oil fields, in fact. And this is becoming more and more obvious, even with the statements just now by Lindsey Graham and by Trump that at least they've secured the oil fields.
Trump was very clear about that. We've secured the oil, he said.
Indeed, but it's not from lack of oil. The United States doesn't need that oil. What they really want is to deny Syria from possessing that oil, so that they can be unable to rebuild, or for the army to be unable to move. Because at the end of the day, this is not about oil. This is about protecting Israel. And Syria has always been a resistance country. It has never, ever stopped supporting the Palestinian cause, and never will. So, now they're trying to apply the divide and conquer strategy on Syria by trying to slice away the northeast, and they've been trying to create a Kurdistan. But the thing that people need to understand is that there's this theme that the Kurdish autonomy is something that sometimes on the left is supported, but in the northeast of Syria, Kurds are not a majority. And it's not so much like a Palestinian cause, but far more like a second Israel in the region that they're trying to create.
Of course, Kurdish people have rights, and they have been denied in many places, not Syria as much as across the border in Turkey, which has massacred Kurds on a huge scale, whilst remaining a member of NATO and a candidate member of the European Union.
Well, there is definitely a history of, Kurds being suppressed and, perhaps denied civil rights as well as citizenship rights. That is historically very accurate. But as we also know, Israel was built on a mythology of victimhood. And we are seeing the same people sell us the same line in order to create Kurdistan, when, as a matter of fact, in a lot of ways, it's just like a second Israel. For example, they want to take they want to build an ethno-state. They want to build it whilst denying the majority of people, the minority of, and giving the majority of people the resources for those majority to a minority of people, which is exactly what happened with Israel. And not only that, but in regions where the indigenous ethnic people of that land are being denied their history, and that history is stolen. For example, the Assyrian people of North Iraq and of Northeast Syria are being denied their historical claims to the areas that they live in by the Kurdish autonomous nationalist movement that the left is supporting. They're having the names of their cities changed. Ain al-Arab to Kobani, Qamishli to Qamishlo. They're being pushed off their land. They're being disarmed, the militias. I mean, this is another Israel in the sense that it's, in order to create this ethno-state called Kurdistan in Syria and North Iraq, what has had to happen is the ethnic cleansing of other minorities that happen not to be Kurdish, such as the Assyrian Christians and Arabs. So that is what we have been fighting now. And of course, the same individuals that sold us Israel, Noam Chomsky, Bernie Sanders, these people that were in kibbutz when they were young, sold us Israel with the same idea that it was going to be a socialist democratic nation. And as a matter of fact, it's once again an ethno-state supported by empire, because that's what the empire always does. They balkanize the Middle East and tries to divide them based on ethnicity or religion. And this is no different at all. If you looked at the history of the Kurdish people, the reason why Sykes-Picot did not grant them a state is because historically, since World War I, they have always been nomadic. And as a result, they never built a city or, had some settlements that they could say, well, this is, Kurdistan. That is why they never had a nation state. But now they want to, carve out what used to be Armenia, Assyria, and Syria into creating one. And that's why Israel is so supportive of that, because they wholeheartedly agree that this would be a second Israel in the region. And not to mention the fact that, the east of Turkey, as much as Turkey has punished the Kurdish people, they, at the same time, the Kurdish people, well, not the people as a whole, but Kurds did participate in the Armenian genocide and ethnically cleansed much of East Turkey. So, this victimhood story, they have to have a nation state here, and let's create an ethnic majority here. And the whole idea of Arabs shouldn't be allowed to move into Northeast Syria because that would threaten the demography. Like, it is all a second Israel. The situation is that the Syrian people own all of Syria. It belongs to all of Syrians. So whether you're Kurdish or Arab or Assyrian, you should be able to live in any region of Syria, and there should be no partition. The oil belongs to every Syrian. And the most awful part is, even the Kurdish militias right this very moment are willing to give up territory to Turkey where Kurds live, not to protect them, but because the US has promised them a stake in the oil fields. And so the only hope at the moment to protect the ethnic groups in the northeast of Syria is the Syrian army. They're the only ones who actually care.
Only for the hour, I must ask Maram to respond, and to Adam Bray any further points she'd like to do before we lose the line. Maram, go ahead. The floor is yours again.
Sure, thank you very much. Yes, the callers are right. Kurds are Syrian Kurds who have Syrian citizenship, are every part of Syrian society and should be so. And of course, people who are resisting the occupation of their country, whether they be Kurdish or any other ethnicity, that is something that I greatly respect. And their honor is very important in our region. And it's not just the fact that they were collaborating with Israel. The Kurdish militias do not represent all Kurds, and they haven't been helpful to certainly Syrian Kurds in the northwest of Syria. So if, it is about honor. So where is the honor in collaborating with not only Israel, but the US and UK occupation of your own country and allowing them to take over the oil resources while the rest of the country starve with a fuel shortage? What is the honor of assassinating people who are fighting ISIS, like the Assyrian militias, or forcibly disarming them because they don't agree with your separatist agenda? So this is not loyalty, this is not honor, and I don't think it represents Syrian Kurds. As your caller said, people are loyal to their country, and we shouldn't just brush them all with this SDF or YPG stroke. And I hope I haven't run out of time.
C'est pour nos intérêts qu'on attaque. France occupée, vassalisée, l'armée sert de milice privée. Et tu te réveilles pour une claque, pour des ventes falses, là tu te braques. Vautrer dans l'autosatisfaction, et pareil les plus bonnes intentions. À chaque